Hello, so my name is Stan and I am the owner of TS67 Images. I've been a amateur photographer for probably the better part of 15 years now, and I've decided to start a new web series that's entitled There's Your Shot. Essentially what I'd like to do is take everyone here through the process I go through whenever I'm taking photographs. So there's certain things I begin looking for, a certain way I frame photographs. This is more of a combination of nature / national park vlog as well as a amateur photography, some tips, just keeping it casual. So today I'm in North Cascades National Park in northwestern United States, a little bit outside of Seattle, Washington. And I'll be going on the Diablo Lake trail. This is the beginning of the trailhead. As you can see, right behind me is actual Diablo Lake. So I hope you guys enjoyed the journey we're about to go on together, and let's hope for some great views. This is actually my first time on this trailhead, so I don't know what to expect, but hoping for the best. Okay, so we're a little bit on the trail right now. As you can see, taking a look around, we are in a temperate forest, borderline on a little bit of rainforest. You can see some moss growing on the trees. I took a few pictures right now, but from a little bit of research I did on the trail earlier on, I know that if we keep going up, there's going to be a very nice overlook looking down on Diablo Lake with a nice little backdrop. So I'm going to focus on the photography I'm going to take there. But for now, it's still a very, very nice view looking around here. So we're continuing a little bit more on the trail, and we've gotten to some very, very large grove of trees. So as we're continuing on this trail, I'm just going to talk about a few of the techniques I use when I take photographs. Obviously I'm going to keep the camera pointed that way because I can assure you that the view is much better with the camera out that way as opposed to looking back at me on this trail. So whenever I take photographs, I do something called a framing technique on a tic-tac-toe pattern. What I do is I draw an imaginary tic-tac-toe board on each one of the photos I'm taking. And what I'm trying to do is each corner that the tic-tac-toe lines intersect, I want to put something interesting in that specific spot. I'm not going to be able to fill up each one of these spots in each picture I take. But the more interesting spots I want to put in, the more interesting items I want to put in each of those spots, the better I think the photo tends to look. The reason I do that is because those corners are usually where your eyes goes first. So I'm trying to create a variety of things that you can look at while you are observing one single picture. It is good on some pictures to have one central item, one central focus, but in the case of landscape photography, I think that there's so much to see that it's better to have a nice variety. We just came upon a little grove here of very, very amazing looking trees. So what I'm going to do right now is give you an introduction to what I'm talking about with framing technique. It's not going to be the best because I did not plan this picture out quite yet. But so let's draw an imaginary tic-tac-toe pattern. The bottom intersections, I'm looking at those ferns, and each one of the trees that I'm trying to frame is one central line. In this case, because the size of the trees, I think this would be better in a portrait as opposed to land. So what I'm doing here is same idea. In fact, actually, let's incorporate the log. Sorry that the camera's a little shaky right now. So we have the trees are making up each one of the central pillars of the tic-tac-toe border. I'm seeing the bottom bar is encompassing the top boundary of the ferns. And I'm also incorporating a little more foreground with that log right there. So that right there is a picture I'd be happy to take. And there's your shot. So now we got to another clearing where we have incredible views of the Cascade Mountains all around. And I think this is definitely a very high potential spot for a great photograph. So I'm just going to go through the mindset I have. So as far as primary subject, clearly we're going to have the Cascade Mountains there in the background as the primary drawing point of this photograph. What I'm going to do next is, in all my photographs, I enjoy having some kind of foreground that really gives a nice little pop. So you have something very, very vivid in the foreground, something very, very majestic in the background. And on this part of the trail, I actually encountered something that fits that criteria. So right here we have a wildflower display. I'm going to stay a little further away from it because it's definitely covered in bees right now. But I'm just going to go through the mindset. So what I'm going to do now is I want the mountains in the background to be framed, well, to be the primary focus, and have a corner of the picture here dominated by the flowers. I can't really see what I'm, right now the camera is a little further away from me because I'm using a selfie stick. So I keep some distance between me and the bees, not to mention I'm on a bit of a ledge right now, so I don't want to get too much closer. But right about there, I've got the photo, the foreground of the flowers, mountains in the background, and there's your shot. In case the way I positioned the camera wasn't too great, I am going to post a picture right after this section of the video to show exactly what my vision for this specific shot is, so you have a better idea of exactly what I was going for. But I think that gave you a decent idea while still maintaining some safety, because I prefer not falling down there. But we are definitely now in a extraordinarily gorgeous part of the hike. So I'm just going to leave the camera going so you guys can see what I'm looking at for a while. Down there you see Diablo Lake, gorgeous views, Cascade Mountains, still surrounded by lush vegetation, lush forests. And there you go. So now we came a little further along the trail and we've wandered out to an outlook that has a very nice outlook of a hydroelectric dam that's in the middle of the park. And as a bonus, the backdrop of the electrical dam is one of the mountains that we have here in Cascades. So I'd say this is a pretty nice opportunity to take a photo. So now we're just going to go over what I'm looking at. Right now, a great foreground, middle ground, and background shot, with the background being the Cascade Mountain, the middle ground, which I'm going to try centering out, being the hydroelectric dam, with the forest as a backdrop. I don't see too much around here that can really give me a very good close range outcrop, although I am going to try to do something here in a little bit. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the mountain, the forest. Going to try to get about 1/3 of the upper screen to be sky, with the hydroelectric dam sort of in the center, and a good shot of the mountains. And there's your shot. Okay. One thing I do have here in the foreground, which I'm going to try to incorporate into a picture, is this tree. So earlier on we talked about framing. So I'm going to try to do it is I'm going to try using the branches of the tree right now to create a frame of the photo we just talked about. It's not the safest outlook, so I might not get to the spot, the exact spot, since I don't want to really fall down this little hill. But here we go. We got the frame in there. I'm looking at the mountains, the dam. Ideally, I'd like to get a little closer to get the little more of the branches out to the sides instead of close to the middle of the yard, but this is the general idea I'm looking at. So for all intents and purposes, there's your shot. So right now we actually finished the entire Diablo Lake trail. However, we had a slight miscalculation. The current amenities that are still open. Essentially, the way the trail usually works is you hike 7.5 miles and then you take a ferry at the end of the trail to get back to your original location at the beginning of the trailhead. However, due to COVID right now, that ferry system is not operational. So I am now taking a very long but very scenic route back to my car, which actually is on the other side of that lake over there. But for now, we're going to enjoy the Cascade Loop, Highway 20, which is actually going right through the park. And as you can see, we actually have a very, very, very scenic walk. So even though we wound up walking much, much further than I was anticipating this on today, it wound up being pretty nice because this is the view that we had the entire time we're walking.